The 2020-21 NBA regular season has ended for 10 teams. This was supposed to be a crazy night, but instead it was more of a tanking one. Denver obviously didn't want to face the Lakers in the first round of the playoffs, so they lost to Portland. The Clippers didn't want to face the Lakers in the first round as well, so they played Jay Scrubb, yes, that's a real name of player, he's not a 2K guy, lost to the Houston Rockets in advance, which is impossible. Anyways, the night wasn't that crazy. Everyone stayed where they wanted to be, and now it's time to find out 4 more playoff teams. But now, we'll do something else. Hey guys, Purple Prince here, and today we'll take a look at the teams who didn't even make the play-in tournament, what went wrong and what's next for them. We have to start with the worst team in the league this year, the Houston Rockets. What difference a year makes. Last season, Houston was still considered one of the top contenders for the NBA championship. Westbrook was traded for John Wall, and Houston actually made some solid moves in free agency to make their team better. But James Harden wanted out, and it was so undeniable. Eventually, Harden left Houston and the downfall was horrible. With just 17 wins in 72 games, they were the absolute worst team in the league, and it's hard to see what changes next season. John Wall is due more than $44 million next season, and more than $47 a year after. He's a good player, and I was pleasantly surprised with how he looked this season after such a big break from basketball because of injuries, but almost $50 million worth? Eric Gordon and Christian Wood are signed for the foreseeable future, so was DJ Augustine and Kevin Porter. But as we saw this season, it's just not enough to really battle for something serious. Most likely, the Rockets will at least try to trade Eric Gordon and John Wall, but it's not like the market is craving for them. Christian Wood is somebody I would like them to keep and maybe build around. He was very good this season. Otherwise, it's just hard to imagine this team anywhere close to the playoffs next season if the team doesn't get any significant upgrades. The next worst team in the league and the worst team in the Eastern Conference was the Detroit Pistons. Back-to-back 20-win seasons. It just says it all. The Blake Griffin experiment didn't work, so they got rid of him during the season. Their signing of Jeremy Grant was a good one, so he might be involved in the future of this team. Although it's hard to say whether he really improved that much or just padded stats because let's be real, nobody else on his team did. As for next year, expect similar results. It's very unlikely the Pistons get a big free agent. All they have to hope for is for the improvement of their young players, and they have a high pick in this year's draft, so maybe their drafted player changes their future for the better. The Orlando Magic. The team started hot with 4 wins in a row, at one moment being the best team in the league. Then came the losing streaks, in part because the team's starting guard Markelle Fultz got injured just 8 games into the season. A subsequent 6-game losing streak followed, then a 9-game losing streak, and by mid-season it was pretty clear that this Orlando team is not a playoff material. During the season, Orlando traded away the face of the team Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, and what was left of the team? Pretty much nothing, as they won just 4 out of their last 23 games. Markelle Fultz still should be in Orlando's plans for the future, but it remains to be seen how good he will be when he returns. He was struggling with confidence issues even before the injury. Jonathan Isaac should be there. Mo Bamba showed he could be the center of the future for Orlando, but so far his use has been very questionable. Terrence Ross is one of the best bench players, but what does it give you if your starters are so bad? I think another bad losing season is on the horizon, and there's nothing you can really do about it. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Another trash organization who doesn't have any direction for the future. 3 wins in a row to start the season and then multiple losing streaks. The Cavaliers won just 1 out of their last 16 games. Pretty horrible. On the positive side, they might have gotten their center of the future in Jared Allen, if he wants to stay there anyway. But why would he? Kevin Love must be traded this summer. His timeline clearly doesn't match Cleveland's. Add his late season antics that must not sit well with the front office, and it's almost guaranteed he'll be out of Cleveland this offseason. The Darius Garland-Collins-Sexton backcourt shows some improvement, but it's still hard to see how they could lead this team to winning ways. Life is hard without LeBron, and at this point I don't see him ever coming back to Cleveland, so as it stands next season, they'll once again be the bottom feeders of the NBA. Oklahoma City Thunder. Now there's a losing team who clearly has a plan. Besides Al Horford's bad contract, they don't have anything else that would handcuff the future of their team. It seems they have their point guard of the future in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They have like million draft picks in the next few years. It's clear what they did this season, which was to tank. And now it's all about just picking the right players in the draft and developing them to possibly form a championship squad in the near future. They already did that once when they drafted Harden, KD, and Russ. That didn't result in the championship, but they went to the finals. OKC clearly knows how to build teams, so this season was just a part of the process. Depending on who they draft and other free agency moves, I'm not completely out on their playoff chances next season. This should be a good team in the future. I'm just not sure if that happens as soon as next season. Minnesota Timberwolves. When you look at the Timberwolves, it's really hard to figure out what the hell is happening. If you just look at their players, Cat, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Malik Beasley, all averaged 19 points or more. That's more than 80 points per game just from 4 players. Ricky Rubio should be a very good point guard when he's coming off the bench. Well, the problem is their culture, I guess. They just don't defend at all. Most of their players with huge contracts will be there for a while, so maybe a new head coach is the answer? Somebody who will actually tell them to play defense? But Tom Thibodeau was there, and yeah, they were better, but not by that much. Should they do a fire sale instead? I don't know. I think they run it back one more year with everyone they have. Everyone's healthy, injury-free. Anthony Edwards will be a 1 year older, 1 year better, but it's really hard to predict where they land. They should be much better than what they were this season. Hopefully, we see those improvements next year. Toronto Raptors. Now, they must do a fire sale. A team that faced a lot of difficulties this season. First of all, the fact that they really didn't play a home game, so they were on the road pretty much the whole season. Injuries and aging stars. Toronto kind of reminds me of Cleveland a bit. Like LeBron led Cleveland to their first title, so did Kawhi for a year, and then when the all-time great player leaves, all there's left are some leftovers who can't even carry the team to the playoffs. A longtime leader is an unrestricted free agent and most likely won't return to the team, not on that price tag, and the team is also going young, so Lowry's timeline is way off. They've given out some big contracts, most notably to Pascal Siakam, who, at least in my eyes, hasn't warranted it. He's good, but not as great as his contract suggests. Fred VanVleet will do his thing, but it's hard to see how well he will do when Lowry isn't his backcourt mate. A lot of unknowns with this team. They have the talent, a good coach, a good organization, it's just that they don't have that one superstar who would carry them again. Fortunately, in the weak Eastern Conference and hopefully with some normalcy next season, they most likely will be back in the playoff hunt. Chicago Bulls. Another year without playoffs, but what else is new? They were just 2 games behind the play-in zone, but they still didn't make it, so this season was a fail. Zach LaVine is a full-blown all-star, but with this squad it's hard to see him sticking with the Bulls beyond next season, if that. Vucevic has 2 more years left on his deal, and can we finally acknowledge that maybe Markkanen isn't as good as advertised? He's been having down seasons for the last 2 years. His number totals have been falling, he just isn't as involved as he should be, but maybe that's the coach's scheme. They have some other good players like Kobe White, Wendell Carter is no slouch, so the parts are there. Maybe it's just a matter of finding a really good coach who could put this all together. It's not like they stink because they don't have any good players, they do. And the coach isn't a slouch either, I'll say this much. They should be battling for the playoffs next season, but considering the latest results, it won't surprise me if this team is one of the worst teams next year as well. Sacramento Kings. 2019-20 Kings. 31 wins, 41 losses. 2020-21 Kings. 31 wins, 41 losses. That's amazing consistency. Unfortunately, the one that is granted that the Kings won't be in the playoffs for the 15th consecutive season. The team is quite young, but they've already found their superstar in De'Aaron Fox. Unfortunately, there's not much else besides Fox. Buddy Hield was supposed to be that other guy, but struggled this season. The good news is they've stuck only with Fox and Hield, and Harrison Barnes, sort of. So their salary cap isn't necessarily in a bad place. They could do something in free agency. The bad news is that most people know Sacramento as a losing organization, and there aren't a lot of players, if any, who want to go to an organization that loses. As for expectations, they have another top 10 pick to draft a player who has a high potential and will be trapped in this mess. Luke Walton might not just be that head coach of the future, and if anything, I would be just happy to see them have a winning season next year, which they also haven't had in 15 years. And the last one, the New Orleans Pelicans. When you look at their roster, it's hard to comprehend in what world they don't even make the playing games. They have 2 All-Stars in Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. Quite injury-prone, yet a somewhat perfect point guard for Zion and Lonzo Ball. Steven Adams patrols the middle, Josh Hart is a good bench player, and that's about it. Their best deep ball shooter is Brandon Ingram, and he shot 38% from the deep. JJ Redick is gone, Bledsoe is that lower tier starting guard, and as it seems now, the team-coach dynamic might be off as well. I think it's a no-brainer that everyone expects the Pelicans to make the playoffs next year. It just has to happen. How will the team change during the summer? Will Lonzo still be there? Will the coach be there? There's a lot of unknowns, but they have to make the playoffs. So these are 10 teams that didn't make the play-ins. Which team is the biggest disappointment in your eyes? Which team has the brightest future? Please leave your comments down below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with others, and enable bell notifications. Why? Just do it and you'll see. Thanks. This is Purple Prince, and I'm out.